Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. Wow, what a special guest today. It's one for the history books. How are you? Well, it's evening for you getting there. How is your evening, Mr. John Gwynne?
Oh, very good, thank you. All the better for talking to you, Matt.
I don't think I can hear you.
Whoop. Can you hear me now?
One second. I cannot hear you. Let me make sure everything's. Can you hear me, baby, if you're watching?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I can hear you, Matt.
Hey, John, say something real quick.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Are we good?
I can't hear you on your end, John.
Okay.
Oh, you can hear John? I don't know why I can't hear you, John. Give me 1 second here.
Sure. No worries.
Yes, please. Chat has audio. I don't know why. We just played with it. 1 second, guys.
No worries.
Stupid thing. So, if you guys can hear me, of course, right before my most anticipated, turn that down, sweetheart, interview, of course, my computer dies, and now I'm doing this from my phone, and I don't know why I can't hear John. Guess. Okay. From stage. Say something, John.
How are we doing now?
Oh, I can hear you, dude. I think we're there. All right. My heart was pounding, guys. Okay,
Yeah,
so let me put this.
The stress with that kind of thing, it's awful.
Isn't it? Oh man, I see your boys in the chat too. Oh, I'm so thankful you're here. All right, so let me start this over. So sorry about that, guys. Yeah, yesterday, of course, my computer crapped out on me, dudes and dudettes. So we're doing it from the phone, but we're learning as we go. I'm very excited. How are you today, John Gwynne?
Very well, thanks, Matt. It's good to be talking to you. Thank you for the invite.
So of course, I'm very, very, very thankful and gracious you're here. So I wanted to just kind of start this with how I was introduced to you, because it wasn't through your books initially. I believe it was an interview on Daniel Green's channel, and the first things I knew about you before about what you write was that you love your family and what you represent. Anytime I watch you, whether it's on an interview or a panel of something, I absolutely love that you represent what I look up to as a family man, what I want to be. So I just wanted to let you know, as like a human man, that's how I first got interested in what you do.
Oh, thanks, Matt. That's really lovely to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's lovely. Because that's so important to me. Family is, it's the heart of everything for me. So, yeah,
Amen.
That means a lot to hear that.
Absolutely. And I was telling you a little bit before we started, your boys do a wonderful job of representing literature, but especially, as I believe they call you Papa, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are doing well, man. I love to watch it, and I like to see you representing your dad that way. I think that's super special. But very excited you're here, because not only did it start that way, but it's gotten even, the trajectory's been this way. After reading Norse-Inspired fantasy, wow. My reading journey didn't start until I was 29. I'm 34 next month. So I'm not a veteran by any means. So this trilogy, the Bloodsworn Saga, has been very important to me. So I've got a little bit of an introduction that I want to start with. The author of The Faithful and the Fallen, of Blood and Bone, and the Bloodsworn Saga, all completed. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling to finish a series. Feels great. It's one of those things where, especially with the third book in a trilogy, you're always you always, it's in your mind's eye when you're writing book 1 and 2, but when you get to it, it's a great feeling because it's things that you've been thinking about and imagining for so long. But it's kind of bittersweet as well because you're saying goodbye to that world, to those characters, you know. So yeah, it's always it's satisfying. It feels like, you know, it's like a
And
big, but
the depth of those characters that you spent so long with, I can see how that would be somewhat of a hard thing emotionally. I can just imagine. I know how I feel about the characters, and just for reference, I'm gonna turn this off real quick. I have not finished book 3, and I've done that kind of on purpose. I didn't get it till it came out. I didn't have an arc or anything, and I was kind of thankful that I had that experience because being done with book 2, the excitement that I have to finish the trilogy, uh, I'm sure you've had that feeling about books before. You're ready.
yeah,
You're going to savor it. It's going to be an experience.
yeah. Well,
Chris,
being a
go ahead.
reader, you know, it's something that's the feeling that I love, you know, from my childhood. That just that excitement for the last book of a series.
Well, with this one in particular, have I have to say, huge congratulations. An instant New York Times and USA Today bestseller. How incredible! Congratulations, man.
Oh, thanks so much, Matt. I mean, I'm still floating, really. I'm blown away by how people have just, you know, taken to the Bloodsworn and Orca and this journey. It's really wonderful to see.
I was thinking, you know, in particular about asking the last question I did, how does it feel when you finish a series? Is there a tradition you have? Is there like something that you celebrate, anything like that when you finish a series? I mean, you finished 3 now, so what? This is book 10.
That's right. Yeah. 10 books. Yeah.
So is there like a celebration you do?
Well, usually it's just you know, when I'm writing, it's quite intense, so I'm kind of, I drop out of life a little bit. So when I finish a book, I usually just make you know, the first thing I do is just catch up properly with my family. So we usually spend some time together, you know, go out for a meal. Yeah, just catch up because I've been kind of, even when I'm around, when I'm writing, sometimes I can be, you know, my head is not always focused, you know, because
Well,
there's things going on, working out plots and threads and arcs. And
the one of the most incredible aspects about, and this was your writing, this series in particular was my introduction to point of view writing. And having read, you know, all different kinds of chapters and non point of view chapters, I love the aspect of, once again, the point of view chapters. It becomes a full circle. Even if it's book 2, there's a point in that particular book where all of these points of view are at where maybe we thought they were going to be, maybe it's not where we thought they were going to be, but it tells a full story. So as those puzzle pieces get together, for me, that's what's special. Um, Writing point of view, is it similar? Do you know where you're headed with these characters, or is it planned out, or you kind of just get there over time?
yeah, it's a bit of both, really, Matt. You know, George R. R. Martin is well known for having said, you know, writers are gardeners or architects, and I do a bit of both of that. So I'd start off with a bit of kind of architectural work, you know, where I'll spend a lot of time thinking about the story, thinking about the key events of the story, and then I try and work. That's how I work out the points of view that I use. So you know, I'll try to come up with characters that will be the most interesting to see that point of story, that story from.
Mhm.
And then you know, I get to a point where I've got kind of a broad spectrum of the plot of the story with key events, and then I've got my characters in my head, and I kind of let them out the gate and follow them, hopefully towards those events. You know, and then that's usually where they tend to cross paths and then diverge again and then come back together. That's it kind of keeps me on track. But I don't, and often the story and the events can change once I start writing. But
Yeah,
but it helps me to keep on track with it and kind of keep moving forward.
Is there ever a time, because I've heard similar situations from other people where you're writing a character and you have an idea where you're going, but that character kind of takes hold and you're not in charge basically anymore, right? Has a character ever kind of taken you on their own path in a way like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I've had characters that died that I wasn't planning on dying,
Wow.
like point of view characters, and then someone else will take over the story that I originally planned or thought that they were going to be seeing. So it can change a lot. Yeah.
I think that is, as somebody who wants to write, I aspire to have that feeling. I can imagine that it's a very cool thing to curate this piece of work, this piece of art, and feel like you're in charge. And then all of a sudden, creativity and the worlds line up, everything kind of lines up, and maybe your initial thoughts get changed by a fictional character. They take the reins. I think
Yeah.
that is incredible to hear. I had
Yeah.
never heard of that.
Oh, really? No. I mean, it
Well,
happens.
I didn't start reading until very recently. So in my
Yeah.
mind, it was just like, oh, somebody has I had a very, very simplistic mindset about how people wrote books. Obviously, that's completely changed now and a lot more respect for it. So finding little things like that out, like characters take you different places sometimes. There's plotter, there's pantser, stuff like that is so cool to hear.
Yeah. I think the main thing, Matt, is that there's no right or wrong way with writing. Every writer just finds their own way. Um, and the more I talk to writers, the more I realize that, we just kind of find our own way to get there. So, there's not a right or wrong. It's just what works for you.
Now, do you remember that time for you where uh, early in your writing career where you're trying to find that system that works for you? What would be some tips for someone trying to find their personal, way of writing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember it very clearly. I I didn't grow up writing or doing creative writing like a lot of writers I know these days did. I came to writing quite late. Like you came to reading, you say, fairly late. I was in my 30s when I started writing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was kind of an accident really, because I was a teacher at a university, and my daughter Harriet's profoundly disabled, and my wife Caroline was looking after her at home. Caroline was running her own kind of antiques, vintage furniture business, and Harriet was particularly unwell. So I took some time out from uni to help at home, and kind of 6 months turned into a year, turned into 18 months. So I got to the point where I realised I don't think I can go back to work.
Hmm.
It's just I'm just needed at home. And I was helping my wife with her business as well, but I'm not very practical. So I thought I need a kind of hobby to keep my head engaged, my brain engaged. And I remember it really clearly. We'd been to see the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings 2
Yeah.
at the cinema, and we'd come home sitting around the dinner table, and I said, I really need to find a hobby I can do from home. And my wife said, well, why don't you try writing a book? And I was like, no, don't be silly. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't know where to start. I haven't got the skill set. And then my three sons, one had just been born then, so that was Will, the youngest, but James and Ed were both like, oh, go on, Dad, try writing a book. And so I thought, you know what, it might be fun. So that's literally where Malice, book one of the Faithful and the Fallen, started. And then kind of the next few days, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it started. So that started in 2002. But I sat down to write, and I thought, I don't actually know what to do. I had like ideas in my head, but I just didn't know how to make them coherent and start writing. So I thought, well, the only way I know how to write is how I learned at university. And I had a great lecturer his mantra was, to pass your degree, you need to read, and then you need to read, and then you need to read some more. And of course, he's talking about research, and so I thought, well, I'll apply that to writing a novel. So my passions are fantasy. I love fantasy since as far back as I can remember. I've also loved mythology, as a kid, and as an adult growing up, I loved all the world mythologies, Greek, Norse, all of it, Celtic. And I came to love history as well, ancient history. I'm a bit of a history nerd. I love history. So I thought I'll try and write something that involves those three passions. And that's how the Banished Lands and the Faith and the Fallen came about, because it's kind of a combination of Celtic mythology and Iron Age history. So like Boudicca's revolt, Caesar's Gallic War, with a healthy dose of fantasy thrown in, and which was inspired by John Milton's Paradise Lost. The angelic war, the war between the angels and demons.
Would you repeat the name of that again?
Yeah, sure. Paradise Lost.
Okay, so, Paradise. I haven't read that.
Okay, it's an epic poem. That's all right. No. So those were the kind of the inspirations for that, and that's how I started reading, and as I researched and read, just ideas start popping, and so the world started forming, and that's really how I started. I mean, that's how I do it now. That's how I write every time, with every project. I just kind of nosedive into a mythology, a historical period, and then try and come up with my own kind of twist on it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to give writerly tips because, like I said to you, everyone finds their way, and there's no right and wrong way. I mean, the only rule I had was write something that you want to read.
You answered it exactly the way that I wanted to kind of hear, because it's not like, well, it wasn't a list type of answer. You took your interests, you were in a time of need, those two things collided, and wow. I'm so glad that, that happened. And I know so many other people like my guy, Jeff here. Faithful and Fallen, hands down my favorite book series of all time.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Thanks.
Jeff's the man. My lovely wife popped a question in, and then I'll kind of continue. She said, "What do you use a program to write, like Word, like what's it, Scrivenger or Campfire? Those, or are you a Word guy?"
Yeah, I started looking at a few different programs, but I've just always come back to Word. I just find Word the simplest, and I'm a bit of a tech dinosaur. So if I can lose something, then or it'll crash, or then it will happen to me. So I try and keep it simple.
I love that, because Word is what I plan on using, and I think that I'll maybe use I believe it's Campfire. I hope I'm not messing that name up, but sometimes they give like character specific, like sections for descriptions of character, maybe like some quirks that they have, what they look like. And maybe that'll be, I don't know. Again, I've heard the answer similar to what you said. You started writing, you used your interests, and you just tried to put together a story, and it's kind of come, I'm guessing it's evolved a little bit throughout the years, but you just started doing what you or writing what you were interested in, which you would want to read.
Yeah. I think there's starting to write a book isn't so hard, but finishing a book I think is quite hard. It takes a lot of kind of dedication to see a book through, and kind of discipline. So you've got for me, I've got to be passionate about it. It's got to be something that I feel passionate about, and elements that I feel passionate about, or I just wouldn't. I don't think I'd make it to the finish line. So it's not rocket science for me. It's just I have to be passionate about it from the beginning to see
continuity is hard.
Yeah.
Continuity is, you have to keep track of a lot of different things, and I had never thought that far into it, but practicing writing, I quickly found out that pantsing is something that I'm going to leave for pantsers, because I'm not like, if I start pantsing, we're going to have 17 different stories over 20 different pages.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
It was nuts. So I can relate in the fact that I'm going to have somewhat of an idea where I'm going. but also give myself, I'll feel like I'll want that creative freedom during that process. Does that sound something similar to you as well? Do you give yourself enough or just enough information to, kind of outline or plan ahead, but not too much so that your creative freedom's, stolen?
Yeah, exactly. You a lot of I'll have like key events that my characters are heading towards,
Mm,
but sometimes you'll start to realize that it just doesn't feel authentic to the character or the story to force them in that direction, and so the story can, and you just, I mean, for me, I just try and keep open to it, and so not too like strictly this is the plot, this is the story, and that's it. I'm open to moving things around or being flexible.
I like that. I'm very thankful you shared it, because I was really looking forward to kind of how that started for you in the process and what it kind of looked like. And after talking to a lot of authors and being someone who's never written a book and wanting to eventually, I hear write what you want to read, which you know, everybody says that, but that is so important from what I understand because of, again, just I've heard it so much, and how that is the way most people I've talked to, like yourself, have written wonderful books, and actually completing a book period is being passionate about it. So again, yeah, thank you for kind of going through it. And I have to say, Julie Crisp, would you like to tell the people who that is?
So Julie's my agent. She was my editor when Malice got picked up. So yeah, we've known each other a long time. She's great, fabulous, fierce. Should be great in a Viking shield wall. But yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
she's
incredible. I'd say like communication and like stuff like that, she is excellent. So I wanted to kind of say that too. She's awesome. I would love to have someone like that on my side. So that's amazing that you do.
yeah, she's
And I'm also jealous because I've never had mead. I'm gonna make it sometime. I have the stuff to make it. I just haven't yet.
cool.
Do you have experience with mead, John?
Oh yeah, yeah, meat's good.
I
It's
have to
good.
try it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
do you just use honey, or do you add? So I hear that people add other stuff too. Are you kind of just a honey guy?
I haven't made it, but I've
Okay.
I've drunk a fair bit of it, and most of the time it has honey in. Yeah,
Well, I'm excited. I'm gonna use honey to make it. Of course, I have to look the recipe up again, but I'm excited. So I guess what I'm getting at is, Julie, I hope you're having a wonderful time, and I can't wait to have that experience as well, because that's been on my radar lately. Um, so the book dropped the 22nd here in the U.S., and I believe the 24th in the UK. Correct?
actually, no, it was originally penciled in for the 24th in the UK, but they shifted the date to match up with the
Oh,
US. So yeah, 22nd for US and UK.
wonderful. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense because, I mean, the epitome of what I'm about to say is happening right now. We're in different countries, which is so amazing. I think that's just the coolest. And to have a book release on two different dates, I don't know. I just think the same date is probably the best idea in my
Yeah,
book. So I'm glad
absolutely.
that they did that.
Yeah, me too.
Uh, what an epic! I mean, obviously, I think that anybody who's ever even just walked past it has to grab this and buy it, because those freaking covers, every single one of them, are just the most epic. Would you like to shout out the artist?
Yeah, sure. Marcus Winnie. He's the guy that has done these amazing covers. Yeah, I've got really lucky with Marcus. They're just fabulous.
I do the audiobooks as well, and the guy that does yours is one of my absolute favorite. He did well, lots, but Janie Wirt's first book, The Curse of the Mistwraith,
Cool.
Colin Mace.
Yeah, Colin Mace. Yeah, he's great. He's just got that's such a voice that is, you could just listen to him all day. He's great voice.
Uh, my newest venture is narrating. I just got all the equipment. So listening to guys like Colin Mace, the gentleman that does the book that got me into fantasy, I can't remember his name. It's a really, really hard name. His first name's Ben, but he narrated Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Mira, which is the book that I picked up and the reason I'm here. That just gave me a passion that I never looked back since. But He's amazing. And then Stephen Pacey
Wow, yeah,
is just pure gold.
yeah, phenomenal. He's
Andy
amazing.
Serkis, though, I think Andy Serkis is in a universe all by himself.
Oh wow, yeah, I know that those. I mean, his narration for The Hobbit and the Silmarillion. Wow,
Yeah, like I
fantastic.
said, I didn't read young, so my very first experience, which was like 3 months ago, I waited. The first time I read The Hobbit was, well, I used the physical book, but I listened to it by Andy Serkis at the same
Yeah,
time, and what an experience!
yeah, I bet that's amazing. Mm.
It was so fun. It was crazy because I hear people everywhere. Such a huge inspiration, The Hobbit being the foundation for so many authors.
Yeah,
And the fact that I'm 34 and I just picked it up. I mean, I've had it for a while, but I just read it.
sure.
But I get it now. It's probably the coziest feeling ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lovely book, lovely. You know, it's a big influence for me when I was a kid. You know, one of the first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the mic cut out there real quick. But yes, The Hobbit. So you're saying The Hobbit was big for you as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I was actually getting kind of into that. So, who were some of those fantasy authors? I seen a gentleman on your shelf. I was looking at one of your pictures the other day. I believe it's a French name. It's like L-E space Le Modé, Modett. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Ellie
Le Modé.
Modesty.
I'm
Yeah,
not. I couldn't be sure. Anyway, I guess
yeah,
what I'm trying to ask is what or who were some of those authors? Obviously, The Hobbit, but some other ones. Because the reason I spoke on that book anyway is I thought I had seen it and that maybe that was one of the foundational books. But anyway, I have an interest in that book as well. But
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
some of those foundational authors for you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, the very first fantasy book I remember was and it was I was young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I remember my teacher, the class teacher, sitting us down as a class for a story time. And so we're all sitting on the floor around our teacher, and he opens his book, and it was called The Book of Three by Lloyd Alexander, and it's book one of the Chronicles of Prydain. If you're not familiar with that, you might be familiar with the Disney movie The Black Cauldron.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so that was book one and two of that series rolled into one film.
Wow.
And so yeah, I was 7 or 8, and I was just hooked. Just loved it. I remember going home and pestering my mum, saying, "Please, please, can you get me this book?" And I remember, having a little an expedition into the local town to the bookshop, and we found books 1, 2, and 3, and mum bought them for me. And that was my entry into fantasy. And I was hooked from that moment, really. But very shortly after that, my sister gave me her copy of The Hobbit, so that kind
Oh,
of that cemented the deal. I mean,
that's
as
a
an
great
adult,
sister.
yeah, she was lovely. Um, and as an adult, really, the authors that I say are kind of my biggest inspirations are Tolkien, obviously. He's just the godfather of epic,
Yes.
and David Gemmell.
Mm.
I remember reading Legend, which is Gemmell's first book when it came out in '84 or something like that, and that was the first book that I stayed up all night to finish.
That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. But and he at the time he was really kind of fresh for fantasy. He wrote characters that were very flawed, more relatable, more human, and the pacing was just out of this world. It's just
Mm.
like, so I stayed up all night to finish it because I just had to know what was going to happen next. So Gemmell has always been a big influence for me. And then I'd say Bernard Cornwell, who's a historical novelist. But one of his series on King Arthur, called the
Mm.
Warlord, it's called the Warlord Chronicles. I love that series with so deeply. It brings me to tears every time I read it. But what Bernard does is he writes. Obviously Arthur is a bit of a fantastical subject, but he wrote it as if it was history.
Mm.
So, and it's just so gritty, and I think for me he's the master of kind of combat. and
Oh
back to
wow.
yeah, he's just fabulous. So I would recommend him as well.
Couple of things. So your combats being now when the shield walls are starting, the saxes are coming out. Um, hopefully, there's no moon touched, around us, right? Uh, that's something I absolutely love about your writing. So, would you say he was one of your teachers?
Yeah, definitely,
Wow.
definitely. Yeah. Bernard Cornwell is the man for writing combat. It's just
Where
brilliant.
should I start with him? Should I start with that series?
I mean, yeah, I'd say start there or start with the Last Kingdom series. I
Oh,
don't
yes.
the TV series, The Last Kingdom, but
Yeah.
Bernard Cornwell wrote that, and that's fabulous as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, Gemmel, I have not read any Gemmel yet. Legend is very, very high up there on the TBR.
Okay.
And Cornwell has been for a while. It's like he was one of the I've always kind of just, before I had a channel, binged BookTube, but it was only fantasy BookTube. But Bernard Cornwell kept coming up because, correct me if I'm wrong, he does a lot of like historical fiction. Does he do nonfiction as well, or just kind of a historical fiction?
He does mostly historical fiction. So the Sharp series, he did that. The Last Kingdom series, they're all quite big series. But he does do some non-fiction as well. Like he wrote a book about the Battle of Waterloo, which is really interesting.
Oh,
So
that
yeah,
would be awesome.
yeah,
But I kept hearing his name come up, and I had heard about his kind of just how epic his stories felt. And I think if people were maybe to elaborate on that more, kind of had the same experience as you with the epic battles, because that is something that stands out in your writing. Um, very much so. I mean, I absolutely love that. So I'm excited to read Cornwell, Gemmel as well. I have to say, one of the authors that I'm reading at the moment, finishing up before I savor this bad boy, is Tad Williams.
yeah,
Are you a
yeah.
Tad Williams fan?
Oh yeah, big time.
The
Yeah,
Dragonbone chair is hitting every single box when
mm.
it comes to classic fantasy that is just like oh so dear, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I read that when it came out. When was it? Early 90s, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I read it. I remember reading them as they came out, and waiting desperately for the next book. Just love that series.
Ah.
Yeah,
Is it? Tell me if you have a similar opinion. A slow burn is reasons why I've heard people don't like that the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn
yeah,
series. That
yeah,
is one of the reasons I adore it already. Is anything where I'm spending time and getting to know characters to where when I reach an empathetic feeling with it, when I can empathize with the characters in a fictitious book, I mean, it's just gotten there. And I
yeah,
think that happens over pages. I mean, getting to know them, getting to visualize and the world to be built, get to relationships, why they act the way they are, you know. So that's what I'm loving so far about the Dragonbone chair, and what I'm going to guess I'll love about the rest of them. Um, is that something that you kind of savor as well?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love I mean, I like a fast-paced read as well, but I think I love those doorstop books where you just disappear, and I think they're the ones which probably stay with me the longest. Because you feel more invested in, you tend to feel more invested in the characters. I think.
And
Um,
I believe that I was going to ask you about that one character. I could ask you about and take all your time, but I have said I was going to ask about one character in particular, and it's actually when I reached out to you, the one that I put in the message that meant a lot to me, because I've always seen women in a as strong individuals. I mean, if anybody's, I have 4 children. I've witnessed my wife give birth to 4 children, and if you've ever seen birth, you know that a woman can kick the hell out of a man. No, no problem. My wife can knock me up and down the street, and I'll admit it right here. So, who translated through your book to me? Orca.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Was she inspired by anybody?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's There's a bit of my wife in Orca. Fortunately, not the axe wielding, murdering part, fortunately.
Sure.
Yeah. But just that, that maternal strength and kind of just will, determination. I mean, I've mentioned Harriet, my daughter, who's
Absolutely.
disabled, and you may be aware she died 3 years ago.
I'm very. My heart goes out to your whole family. Yes, I knew that, and my heart does go out to your whole entire family.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. It's been the worst at times, but and Caroline, my wife, she fought for Harriet from the day she was born, every step of the way. We had, I genuinely believe we had more years with Harriet because of Caroline's strength and and just the power that love does move mountains sometimes, and she's so yeah. There's
That
we're
maternal
all,
strength.
yeah, we're all pretty broken by losing Harriet, but Caroline, it's on a different level, I think. And
Well, I do appreciate and I absolutely, again, my heart goes out to your whole entire family because I couldn't imagine. That very much goes into the way I opened this with you. When I think of John Gwynne, I think of a family man that has a big heart and loves his people. And that's very much why I wanted to tell you that earlier, because I think it translates into all of your work, just how important all of the things in your real life,
yeah,
and how they drive you to do what you do.
I hope so. Thank you. 'Cause, yeah, everything it's always in what I write. I think it is what's most important to me is those themes of family, love, friendship.
Those
Yeah,
relationships, they they're foundational in our lives, right? And they can happen at all stages of life, right? Of
yeah,
course, when you have kids, it's like all of a sudden, for instance, I have four new relationships and they're all different.
yeah,
They're very foundational, especially just kind of speaking on my own experience. So when you read those type of well built uh, characters, and then also those experiences and relationships that they gain throughout that experience is very I guess it takes fiction and makes it personal.
yeah. Hopefully, I think writing isn't. It's not a 9 to 5 that you can just kind of leave at home. So I think you do put a bit of yourself in your books.
Yeah, and I think I'm very thankful for that because I think anybody in the world could write about the exact same thing. If everybody that wrote about the exact same topic or same storyline, you would, if there was 1,000 people, you get 1,000 different ways that story is told, and they would all feel different. And I
Yes,
believe that that's the individuality we all have as people through prose.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Wow, yeah, that is incredible, and I'm glad that we touched on the characters because that obviously is one of my favorite parts. So, as far as publishing, how does your publishing journey look? The way you got started writing was, thank you for sharing that. And how long after kind of writing for a little bit did you start looking for a publisher, and kind of how does that look for you?
Okay, so yeah, so I started writing Malice. Um, well, the idea was sparked for it in 2002, but it took me many years to write the first book.
Sure.
Um, Partly, I was doing it as a hobby, with no kind of expectations. I had my captive audience was my wife and my children. That's those, maybe a few friends. I thought those would be the only people that would read it. But I came kind of finish. I was finishing it up. I don't know, maybe 2009, 2000, early 2010, something like that.
Hmm.
So it took a good 7 or 8 years to write, and then my Caroline and friends read it, and they always said kind things about it, and so the idea came up to maybe see what a publisher would think about it. And then obviously, so I looked into that and realized that if you want to be traditionally published, then you have to have an agent.
Mm.
So I found an agent and sent it off to them, and I mean, they took me on, which was fantastic. It's amazing. And they submitted it to the kind of the big five, they call it in the UK, the
Yeah.
big five publishers, and it's like couple of weeks before Christmas 2010. I remember it really clearly. And my agent said, don't expect to hear back this side of Christmas because everything's winding down now. People probably read it over Christmas and get back to us then. And then I think it was the last day of school before the school holiday started before Christmas. And my agent phoned me up and said, "We've had an offer from Pan Macmillan." And I was like, "Wow, so that was the beginning." That was my first contract for Malice and Valor. It was a 2-book deal for Malice and Valor, and Julie, who's now my agent, was actually the contracting editor that made the offer for Malice.
Julie, we thank you. All of us, I'm speaking from the whole community, we thank you because, so many people are inspired, and you're looking at one by this man's writing, and that's incredible. That's a very, very inspiring story. Weren't expecting it. There was a realistic aspect. You could not hear back for a very long time. You're kind of maybe forgot about it for a little bit, and all of a sudden, wow, this was out of the blue. Incredible feeling, I'm sure.
Oh, you're on cloud nine. Really, it's you can't. If I could bottle that feeling, I'd be a millionaire. It's an amazing feeling. Yeah,
I'd have a 12-pack of it. So between the way you started writing, the way you got into being a published author, and now the instant USA Today, New York Times bestselling, what do you call that? Is that an award? Is that I was about to say award, but is that an award?
I mean, it's not so much as an award as it's a ranking, but obviously the NYT is
Okay, so but having that happen and you being and that just happened 2-3 days ago.
I found out.
Announcing.
Yeah, found out Wednesday evening. Yeah,
Having that just happen, us going all the way back to how you started writing, to the way you got published, and that happening Wednesday. What is it? What's the words that come to mind for you?
Honestly, Matt, it's just it's
Full circle.
Yeah, it's dream come true stuff. I mean, I always pinch myself.
Wow.
I'm doing this job. It's just from day one. When an agent took me on, and then the publishers took me on, it's just been a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so grateful.
I know I probably have talked about, those kind of milestones and the feelings with them, but I think those translate to aspiring writers like me and other people watching right now. John Gwynne did it. And I'm sure to a lot of people, the way that you started writing, John, and the way somebody else started writing, there's a very similar story there. So possibilities are endless. And I think that if you're passionate about something, anything that we've just talked about that can happen to you as well. I think that's so important to say.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's I didn't have any self-belief, think that I could do it, and I just started doing it for a bit of fun and a hobby, really. So, don't let anything hold you back. Just give it a go. Have a go. Who
Take
knows?
that dive.
Who knows? Yeah.
That's a wonderful message, and I think that your story in particular screams it. How did writing the Bloodsworn Saga compare to the last two series? Is there any big contrasting elements, or was it simply the content matter?
I mean, I think as a writer, you're always trying to kind of hone things and improve things, the way you do things. You know, just have a sharper eye and working on your prose. So you know, you're always trying to do things better every time you write. But you know, the rough approach was the same as I told you with Faithful and the Fallen. You know, I took those things that I was passionate about, and so for the Faithful and the Fallen, it was kind of Celtic mythology, Iron Age Europe, that history, and you know, a big dose of fantasy as well. And so for the Bloodsworn, it was, you know, a similar approach in that, but it was a tighter, sharper approach, I think. So I focus very much, you know, the two main influences going into the Bloodsworn was Beowulf, the story of Beowulf,
Okay.
which you know, I remember picking up as a child, maybe 8, 9 or 10, something like that. I picked up a retelling, you know, like an art, more of like a comic, graphic novel of Beowulf. And I love that, you know, the idea of monster hunters, like a mercenary band out monster hunting. I love that. And then I love Norse mythology and the idea of Ragnarok, you know, that end of days battle where all the gods and all the creatures and every living thing comes together to fight it out. Ragnarok, you know, that was always kind of an inspiration to me. So those Beowulf and Ragnarok were really the first and the biggest inspirations for the Bloodsworn Saga. Of course, you know, I love Norse mythology. I do Viking reenactment as well, so I love history and Viking era history. So you know, I took those passions, and that's the heart of the Bloodsworn Saga.
I think it's like you're reading my mind. I'll tell you why. My last name is well, I don't care if people know it, Sorensen.
Yeah,
So I did.
Scandinavian.
Yes, sir. I'm 6'5" and about 280 when I'm super healthy,
Yeah,
and that really drove me to look into my ancestry. And ever since, my ancestors went from Denmark to Michigan, and they've stayed there. It was very easy
yeah,
to find my ancestry out. So learning about that culture, the mythology, became something I was obsessed with. Obviously, leading to me picking this series up specifically was the Norse aspect.
yeah,
And what I love that you did was the different kinds of creatures. We've got a pretty gnarly teeth-eating monster whose name is
Wesley. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, she. I don't really know. I just say he.
She, she.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I guess I would have probably thought that, but the way that he talks is, I don't know, it's kind of it's I wouldn't say humorous, but sometimes it makes me chuckle just kind of
Yeah,
envisioning well, that bastard down there that's dead doesn't need his teeth anymore, so I'm just gonna pull them out and eat them. You know what I mean? It's like that makes me laugh, dude.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It makes me chuckle as well, to be honest.
and Colin
Most,
Mace does it well.
oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, most of the creatures that you find in the Bloodsworn Saga, you know, they're from Scandinavian folklore. Most of them, but there's a couple in there that I've kind of a few that I've made up myself, and Vesley and the Tenor, they were my own invention. Although
The tenor, yes.
I can't say they're my invention because really they were my version, or they're my kind of origin story for the Tooth Fairy. So you know, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of come up with with a real version of the tooth fairy, so not this kindly thing or fairy like creature that leaves you money under your pillow when you lose a tooth, but it's actually this nasty little creature who will quite happily rip your teeth from your gums whether you're alive or dead and eat them.
Little psychotic, right? Oh
Yeah,
man, it fits so well in this in the story. It does. It really adds such a wonderful aspect to it. And there's times where I'm like, oh, he's brutal, and then there's times where I'm laughing. So it's a really fun aspect. That character brings a lot of different emotions throughout the stories so far. I can't, and I'm just itching to finish it up.
wow.
But I'm not as well. Like it's gonna be over then, right?
Yeah,
Um, the other, I lost what I was saying. I do that. My brain is mushy.
yeah,
Oh, here we go. Here it is. So I love that picture. That is just very clean, and I think that pays homage to the book very well. You said you do reenactments. I have a picture of it's something I believe I found on it was X, I believe, but it's you in a helmet. Can I show it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to permit. There it is.
Yeah.
Going to war, baby. What would you have to do wrong, by the way, to be the guy that has to pound circles and create chainmail back in the day, right?
Oh wow, what a job! I mean, that's so hard.
That's a straight disrespect right there. Like if you're asked to make a chainmail, bro, you've messed up. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I've always thought of that.
yeah, it's a time-consuming job. Wow,
Yeah.
but just the patience to do that, it's amazing.
My wife asked a wonderful question, so I'm going to throw it up here. The first one, what do you do for fun, Mr. Gwynne?
Well, some Viking reenactments. I do some of that. I mean, really, most of my leisure time is just spent with my family. Movies, just hanging out together. We play a bit of sport together as well, some tennis and some badminton.
I've been wanting to get back into not baseball, but softball. I like playing softball.
Yeah.
If rugby was big here, I probably would have played rugby. I played American football, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Also, is it cricket? Cricket looks kind of fun. Never played, but yeah, I think it would be. I think it would be so fun to do kind of reenactments. Curiosity is pushing here, and how do you get into that? Like, how do you dedicate yourself to reenacting with other people, and how do you find them people?
Sure. Yeah. Well, over here bank holidays and holidays, weekends. There's a lot of castles around the UK, and you tend to have like medieval reenactment days. So there's a castle near to where we lived, and we would go. It was an event that was on every year, and we'd go every year and loved it. Jousting and watching all of the reenactment and stuff. And we just it's a fun day out. So that's how it started for us, and then we were going to a medieval festival, and there were Viking reenactors there. So we just started chatting to them, saying how great it was, and they were like, you should come along and join us, and that was it really. So
Wow.
yeah, where I live, there's the reenactment group is called Vikings UK, and
Okay.
they have regional groups all around the country, and so you just look for the one that's closest to you. And fortunately, there's one the closest one to me is they train every 2 weeks on the downs, like on a hill slope.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they're like 15 minutes away from drive from me, so it's ideal.
I love that. There's an aspect of culture in there, and I always talk about this as one of the shining topics I find myself in love with, and did not really think about it until starting this channel and talking with authors and other people, was culture. In the UK and in America, we do a lot of the same things, but we can still find those cultural differences, and that's one. In America, I couldn't tell you with any sort of accuracy if there's castles that were, I know in the UK that have been there for a very long time. I couldn't tell you in America if we have that. I can tell you that we have McDonald's, which is so sad. I wish we had castles, and if we do, I hope to find it out, unless
Yeah,
it's one that was just built to like mimic, because it doesn't have the history with it.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a very cool thing about about your culture.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about living in the UK, I think, is the history. It's rich and deep.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I believe there was a fact I heard not too long ago that there are just an exponential number of castles. Is it in the UK or, well, I'm terrible with geography, so I'm probably going to sound ignorant, and I am to geography. But Scotland, was it Scotland that there's just an incredible amount of castles?
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Oh,
We have
to go there one day.
Yeah, Scotland's beautiful. Such a beautiful country, and they have lots of castles. They all look great.
when my kids are, I have 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I'm not planning that for next summer. We're gonna do it maybe in 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
Uh, sounds like one to start saving up for because that would be so epic.
yeah,
Um, so yes, I love that you do that. Anything else? You like movies, games? You play video games, music?
yeah, yeah. I love movies. Video games. I didn't game for a long time, but a few years ago, my boys just sat me down and said, "You have to try this game," and it was God of War. Um,
Yes,
so yeah,
yes.
and I just fell instantly in love with that game. Love that game. Um,
Me and my son were gonna dress up as but now his name is, I can't think of his name. The main character. I'm bald, obviously. Krat,
Kratos,
what was it?
Kratos.
Kratos. Yes.
Yeah,
And his son. My son was gonna, have the bow. Uh, yeah, that was the
cool.
first game I had with PlayStation.
Yeah, yeah, so good.
And with Amazon, as I know you know this, it's like you can get that leather armor stuff and chain mail and just really do it up the right way.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, epic.
yeah,
Well, that's so cool that you love that game, man, because I have to agree.
yeah.
Are you into music? What kind of music do you love?
Yeah, I mean, I love all kinds of music. Really, I mean, I was in bands when I was a young man. So I
What'd you
played.
play?
So I play the double bass.
Yes,
Like rock
me
and roll.
too.
Oh, really?
I'm a
Cool.
drummer, bro.
Cool.
Absolutely. Since
Yeah,
I was very young.
yeah, fabulous. Well, yeah. So I love music. Well,
Good deal.
it's just in you, isn't it? So I like all types of music. Really, I listen to most stuff. When I was writing the Bloodsworn, I listened just only to like Scandinavian folk music. Bands like Wardruna,
Yeah.
Hyla, and Danheim. Really helped me to kind of get into that writing space.
Oh, the feel that they give you through their music really
Yeah,
does set that tone that nothing else does. That Norse
yeah,
feeling, which I couldn't explain in words. I just feel it.
yeah,
The ruins, the clothing, the dark kind of atmosphere. It's kind of rainy but foggy, and yeah, it just puts you there. It puts me there.
yeah.
So I
Me
can
too.
definitely see why.
Yeah.
The other question you had was when you find yourself kind of running out of things to write down, words to put down, you get what they call, right, the writer's block. Do you have anything you go to, or is it kind of like I'm going to walk away or and come back later?
I mean, I don't really, I can't really say that I've ever experienced writer's block.
Wow.
Um, because like I say, I have the way I write is I come up with a story first and kind of a series of events. So if ever I'm not quite sure of what's going on, I'm just like, okay, well, keep pointing the characters towards those events, keep moving towards those events, and it kind of keeps me going. I think it gets me out of trouble. Whereas if I was more of a pantser, a gardener, I think I might have more trouble then.
Ooh, I
I
like that aspect that you just
Yeah,
said. If you were a pantser and you weren't necessarily sure where you're going, you're just feeling it, rather than having a rough idea. Wow, great. I love I'm writing that down because I can definitely see that making a huge impact on whether or not you experience writer's block.
yeah.
I
It helps me just keep moving.
had to shut my mom out. She's here. Thank you, Mom. We did talk about that. All right. So I've been meaning to ask you as well, the last couple weeks, how I'm sure you're sleep deprived. You've been doing lots of this. What is the okay, the book's about to be released. Um oh, sorry. Anyway, what is those couple weeks leading up to dropping a book, especially the end of a series, one as popular as this one? What is that like? What does it feel like?
Oh, it's really exciting, Matt. It's really exciting. Bit nerve-wracking as well. You feel nervous. You got butterflies. You just hope that it goes down well because as a writer, you never know really. You know, you write something and you if you enjoy it, you know, that's really how I gauge my writing. I write stuff, like I said, that I want to read. You know, and hopefully other people will like it too. That's you know, that's the way I look at it.
I think that's a perfect way, because let's just use the last hour and 25 seconds. If you and I were talking about the things that came up, the topics that we were late on, I'm going to guess that what you're into, I mean, it comes down, I think, to basic human condition. And I love that you kind of covered that. If you're passionate about something, and oh, that person's into being, Norse mythology. Well, so am I. There's going to be commonalities there. So,
Yeah,
writing what people are passionate about is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. That's the main message that I keep pounding in my head, wanting to do what you're doing. So, 1 second here. Busy too, right? Lots of
it's
different panels and.
yeah, it's been mad busy actually, and it's been a bit of a shock to my system because, you know, like I said, I haven't really been involved in life for 3 years since Harriet died. You know, I just kind of fell off the face of the earth when Harry died, and we
Mm,
retreated. Me and my family, we just retreated into kind of a little huddle, really, just trying to help each other get through the day. You know, and I didn't write. I hadn't written anything for 2.5 years before when I sat down to start Fury, which is the end of kind of November, December last year.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. And that, I mean, I was quite I was nervous, really. I was because I hadn't written anything. I felt like, you know, and also felt like a different person. You know, grief changes you,
I can't imagine.
and so I wasn't. I just but so I wasn't sure when I sat down whether I would get that writer's block, whether I'd be able to write. Um, but actually, it was the opposite. It's the fastest book I've ever written. When I started writing, it just the words just kind of poured out of me. You know, it's quite in the most intense writing period that I've experienced. I've had. You know, I was
Wow.
writing for long hours, and it just kind of poured out of me. But
Mm,
so yeah, and that's so coming up to publication. It has been. I do feel pretty tired, actually, pretty wrung out because
I'll bet.
I've not been used to this world, and it's. I mean, it's been because my UK up publishers organised a book tour for me.
Yes, I was going to throw that up there.
Yeah, well, that was amazing, really, just to see so many readers that are so passionate about this world of the Bloodsworn was wonderful. But you know, also it's it's draining as well. You know, just the physicality of going from one place to the next for 3 or 4 days in a row and meeting so many different people. You know, it kind of takes a lot of energy, I think.
It
So
does.
so yeah, I feel pretty tired. Just kind of catching up now.
I
But
think
it's
you deserve one hell of a stiff drink and a nice, lounge chair. So I hope you do that for yourself, man. You definitely deserve it.
yeah, see, that's a great idea.
Yes, sir. So, do you ever see yourself doing a U.S. book tour?
Oh, you know, I mean, that's something I'd love to do. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I mean, it's just I guess that's the kind of thing that comes from your publisher. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a conversation I should have with them. Yeah, but I'd love to
Also,
do it.
tell him the beard, Matthew here. I need the hardcovers to be in America, because those bad boy. I'm so the FOMO, right?
Yeah.
I feel hip every time I say that. Now I had no idea what that was until like a week ago, but every time I see a hardcover of any which one of the three books in this series, I just kind of like want to reach through the screen, and I'll leave some money there, but like, and so, you know what I mean? They're so
Right.
beautiful, and I'm a hardcover freak. Um, so they are they did the story justice, even more so. The paperbacks are gorgeous, but those hardcovers really do it.
Well, let's have a chat with the US publishers and see what they have to say.
I'll send
But
an email or two. I'll say, look, I'm an American. I really, really need these in hardcover because, well, I just do, right? Um,
cool. Well, they're a great team, so you know, fingers crossed.
I think now tell me if I'm wrong. Orbit US and Orbit UK.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Okay. I was just making sure I had that right. Sometimes I mess up. So I used to think that Orbit and what's the UK publisher Gallants.
Glance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're different than they're in a different. They're totally different than Orbit, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me. I don't know why I put those two together. So potentially in the future, being in the U.S., oh yeah, you've got an incredible amount of fans in the U.S. We would probably start bombarding you at the airport, like, "Hey, John, you're here finally." Uh, so that would be so cool. Are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
reading anything currently?
Yeah. Actually, I've yeah. Again, when Harry died, I stopped reading. It couldn't function for a while, so I stopped all that stuff. Reading.
Grief is very, very, very hard for like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be going through.
Stop watching TV. But slowly I'm learning to kind of. You don't come through the pain and out the other side. It doesn't work like that. But you kind of learn to deal with it and learn to function again despite the pain. So
Mm.
yeah, I've started reading again this year. Read some great books, but the standout for me is The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman.
Yes.
And so
I just met him like 2 months ago in state here. Yeah.
yeah, so I just love that book. For me, reading it's like as a child. Really, I don't try and look at it too technically. But if I get moved emotionally, then for me that's that's a winner. It's a 5-star read for me. That's
The
the one.
feeling, yeah, the feeling of the both books are just very unique, and I think so many. Yeah, I knew Cinnapalm, the one that's chatting right now. She is
Yeah,
she loves Buellman,
yeah,
he's a very interesting guy too. He's worn a lot of hats.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was a comedian, and well, I think it's really kind of still is through his work. He does pull off comedic moments.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. He's witty.
So that was fun. Uh, sorry, I forgot. The Daughter's War, yes. Any
Yeah.
others that stuck out this year?
Yeah, I'm reading another one of his now because I loved it so much, which is Between Two Fires,
Oh,
which is
yes.
which is I haven't finished that yet, but that's fantastic.
What another one that's just like dark, but dark.
Yeah,
But there's meaning in there because, well, the characters, the female character, just empathy. That's all I felt the entire time. And to
yeah,
have such a dark and kind of the dark thematics and themes and just feel the atmosphere that you get from that book, also feeling a sense of love or empathy for a character, I
yeah,
feel like that's hard to pull off. And wow, what a great book for that.
yeah,
You're reading some bangers.
yeah. I've come on a good run. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, excellent. What I'm reading right now is a couple things. I'm a mood reader. My wife, she reads one book at a time. She starts it and she finishes it. And I think that I'm from a different planet because I start 10 books and I'll finish 10 books, but it'll take me, I do a little bit at each time.
sure.
Um, this trilogy, the Talons trilogy by J.M. Miro, the first book is Ordinary Monsters. Excellent. Victorian London. Um, Feel with fantasy, an aspect of dark academia, but nothing like I ever would think when I heard dark academia. He does it unique, very original, I think. But kind of just like a dark Victorian London feel with
Yeah,
fantasy in it. It's
cool.
very good.
Yeah,
And the Dragonbone chair.
yeah, of course.
So I'm having fun.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So I want to just finally say this has been everything plus so much more than I expected, John. Um, I want to just say thank you, man. I know how busy you've been, and to come and hang out with one of your fans, and well, lots of your fans, and just kind of drop some knowledge on us and tell us some of your story and how things started and continued and are now is just so exciting, and I'm very thankful for it.
Thank you, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm honoured that you'd want to listen to my
Oh,
talking about writing. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Really.
always. So the very last question I'm going to ask is, what are you working on, if anything, and what do you see for the future? Anything that you can talk about. If not, I get it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can't. So I'm definitely working on something new.
Okay,
I can't give too many details,
that's
because my
okay.
publishers might not be too happy about that
Sure.
at the moment. But so yeah, it's basically what I do. It's something that's yeah,
Julie.
really, yeah. I don't want to get in trouble here, but it's
Right. No,
basically
no.
what
I think the fact that I know now that you're working on something that
I,
made everything worth me asking the question.
okay. So yeah, it's something that it'll be inspired by mythology.
Okay.
It's inspired by a specific period of history, and it's inspired by my daughter Harriet as well.
Wow. Well,
So
I
yeah,
am very excited.
that's all I
Um,
can think at the moment without
well,
getting.
thank you for sharing that much because again, that's just to know that my favorite author of all time, who is you, by the way, I don't know if you knew that, is
Uh,
working on something that's coming out in
yeah,
the future is excellent. So very excited. I know everybody else is as well. Um, Thank you so much, John. This has been just so much fun. And everybody that was here live, Julie too. I wanted to say just the fact too, also that you were here um, representing as an agent would, or I would expect. That is so cool. You showing your support for John and
well,
coming
Julie's
to my channel to do that.
Julie's a reader and she's passionate. We all are. We are all book lovers and readers. That's where we started. That's where we are. We still are. So that's what's so nice about this community. I think book people are good people. I think
Unequivocal, like
yeah,
there's no other community I've been a part of where, like, don't get me wrong, there's little things that come up and there's a little bit of drama here and there. I don't have anything to do with the drama, but I see it every now and then. Um,
yeah,
in my life, I have no room for that. Like, I'll just walk away from it. But
yeah,
this community is a lot of inspiring one another, um, asking what you're interested in, and I guess being considerate, thoughtful. So I would agree with you. I very much think that's a part of the reading community, the reviewing, and the author, editors, all that in one big community. It's very lovely. So very thankful for it, and I'm glad that you have a similar experience.
yeah.
Brian wants to know how working with the broken binding was.
Oh, fantastic! I love the broken binding. Matt, who started it, he's a force of nature. I remember him kind of reaching out to me when he just started, and we've always got along well. And I think he does such a professional job.
Yeah, that's the version I'm reading is from,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that's
He's putting stuff together that he knows readers because he's a passionate reader himself. So he knows what we want. And
yeah,
he's
he's doing a lot of things, but a few that
yeah,
stand out to me is creating quality, representative work, representative of the author in such a well put together way of the story, giving it the care and quality I feel they deserve as well.
yeah,
Representing that at an affordable, even for us in the U.S., where it's $13 extra per month for the shipping, it's
yeah,
still very affordable.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, huge props to Broken Binding. Thank you for asking that, Brian. So I'm going to finish with once again, thank you, John. I cannot wait to continue to be your biggest fan to your boys. I'll keep watching your channel. You guys do wonderful. To everybody that was here live, thank you so much. This has been my goal when I started this channel a year and a half ago. My number two goal was to interview one of my other favorite authors, Ryan Cahill. But my absolute, yep, I've made it, was to have my all-time favorite author, John Gwynne, on the channel. So just again, thank you, man. And anybody that watches this on replay, thank you as well. Leave your favorite part in the comments if you would like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. I hope you have a wonderful night, John.
You too, Matt. Thank you, mate. Thank you.
See you guys later.
Take care.
Tonight, I almost forgot. Tonight at 8:30 Eastern, John will probably be snoozing because it was that. Well, now it's I think 12:30, 1:30, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm having Scott Lynch on, and wow, what a crazy day.
Wow.
So just very thankful. But Scott Lynch will be on at 8:30 tonight Eastern. So I'm very excited about that as well. So hope to see you guys there.
That's awesome.
Once again, so 8:30 Scott Lynch tonight, 8:30 Eastern. See you guys there. John, have a wonderful night. Everybody else, we'll talk to you later.
Cheers, Matt. Take care.
Cheers.